in this country who say they deplore this sort of thing have fallen silent. It's being condoned by the European Union and Washington as events unfold.
I got Senator Stern here. So we swing over and look at some of the drugs.
And when you say the Western countries will bear some responsibility, in what sense do they bear responsibility?
Look at it through Moscow's eyes. Since the Clinton administration in the 1990s, the U.S.-led West has been on a steady march toward post-Soviet Russia.
This is a weapons demonstration.
It began with the expansion of NATO in the 1990s under Bush, then further expanded NATO all the way to Russia's borders. Then came the funding of what are euphemistically called NGO.
I don't know if you know this, but I don't speak Russian!
This is not what we agreed to. You promised me suits and then you promised me drones.
Everything will be okay.
This is not what I wanted.
But the political action group funded by the West, operating inside Russia. Then came the decision to build missile defense installations along Russia, allegedly against Iran, a country which has neither nuclear weapons nor any missiles to deliver them. Then comes American military outpost in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, which led to the War of 208. And now the West is at the gates of Ukraine. That's the picture, as Moscow sees it. And it's rational, it's reasonable, it's hard to deny. Let's ask ourselves this. Who precipitated this crisis?
Anyway, carry on.
You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where the strange is just another day at the office and the unexplained is our playground.
Hi, this is Liam Martin of the Exiled Minds podcast, and you're listening to the network that never stops seeking Troubled Minds Radio, KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
You're tuned into Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where we peer into the future, embrace the power of AI, and delve deep into the conspiracies that shape our world.
Are you ready to dive headfirst into the enigmatic, mysterious world of the occult? Troubled Minds. Join the Arcane Observer on an explorational journey and unravel the ancient secrets, challenges and boundaries of conventional knowledge and thinking with fearless exploration into the occult with the Arcane Observer Minds Radio, unraveling the mysteries of a supernatural journey. Unlike your typical podcast, fearlessly embarking on a quest to demystify the occult, examining the paranormal, the esoteric traditions and unexplained, with open minds and a thirst for understanding. Explore ancient wisdoms, supernatural encounters, rituals, magic, conspiracy theories, and occult in popular culture. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or a curious observer, or someone just starting to peer into the shadows, the Arcane Observer invites you to join the electrifying expedition to the heart of Troubled Minds Radio, Digital Broadcasting.
You're tuned into Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where we contemplate the mysteries of the cosmos through the lens of philosophy, magic, and more.
and welcome to the show, Exiled Minds podcast. Me, your host, Liam Martin. I'm glad you could join us today. Today, episode number, what number are we on? I think we're on number 47 now of the Exiled Minds podcast. Yep, double check that. Yeah, episode number 47. Today's episode, the Exiled Vortex. So what indeed is that going to be? There's a bit of a kind of ominous, the Exiled Vortex. This is one of them kind of catchy show titles I was going for, but also because it's actually the name that I thought was most like appropriate for the show as well, not just because it sounded a bit catchy. Because this show today, we're going to do an episode on Vortex-Based Mathematics and about some of the subject matter that we get talking about on this show, the conspiratorial shows and the sort of fringe sciences. We're going to get into some of the subject matter that's kind of pushed out to the fringes and kind of falls into a bit of a black hole, into a vortex, so to speak. So today's show on the Exiled Minds podcast with me, your incredibly famous host, Liam Martin. We're going to be exploring vortex-based mathematics of Marko Rodin and the Rodin Coil. So we'll have a journey into this controversial science. In this episode, we'll delve into the enigmatic world of vortex-based mathematics and the Rodin Coil, two intriguing concepts brought to light by Marko Rodin and popularized by his student Randy Powell. So, join us as we explore the unconventional mathematical systems and the unique core design that claim to hold the keys to harnessing free energy, enhancing energy efficiency, and even tapping into the mysteries of the universe. So, join us as we unravel the controversial theories and claims surrounding these ideas, and while examining with skepticism, or have a look at see how this has been encountered, how the scientific community has encountered all this. So we'll get yourself ready for a thought-provoking journey into the realms of the unconventional science and spirituality as we seek to understand the fascinating and controversy surrounding the Rodin Coil and vortex-based mathematics. So what could be more fun? What could be more fun than the show on mathematics? But it's vortexes though. It's portal stuff basically. Come on, you gotta love a vortex. I do. This joking aside though, it's sort of tongue in cheek that was. It's pretty interesting stuff if you get into this. If you're into science and physics and particle physics and trying to understand the workings of things a little bit, or some kind of a handle on it, sometimes it feels like it's flying over your head. But if you watch this stuff enough, it sinks in and you realise that I think people are a lot smarter than they realise. And some of this stuff, at first it's bamboozlement, but after a while you start to realise and you have those aha moments and you're like, I get it. It's not actually that tough. And although some of this might sound a bit far out in terms of complicated or far out in terms of a bit woo-woo, it, as Marko's explained before in some of his talks, kids can understand it, and kids can tend to understand it better than adults. Adults tend to have to undo things, accept the premises a little bit, and then it's just because it's simple, it's kind of intuitive. So yeah, so there's a lot to talk about with this. So we'll get into it then. So let's start off with a quick profile, a quick rundown. In fact, we'll get an image of Marko Rodin up as soon as I've mentioned him. We'll stick him, see if we've got a picture of just the guy on his own, because usually when I have his images it's always a sort of the coil. In fact, I'll display this image for the video viewers because this was specifically, there's an image of him in a, well actually I better share the window. Yeah, there's an image of Marko Rodin where he's wearing a kind of a vest, kind of white vest, and that's the talk that I've seen him do. It's like 4.5 hour math lecture thing, but it's well worth sort of checking out, actually, to be honest. This show comes off the back of the number 7. I did the last show. If you're following these shows in order, then on the last show we did a show about the lucky number 7, and so we looked into the mystery and the religious significance, cultural significance of the number 7, looked at some of the possible mathematical properties, and you know, looked at Theosophical Society, and Betty Bland was talking about the 7 rays. And there was, you know, because it had been written a lot by the Theosophical Society, that in their teachings, T. Suber, Raw, Helena Blavatsky, C.W. Leadbeater, and Ernest Wood had all written about this 7 rays principle, about 7 things being differently together, and then in the lucky number 7. And I thought it was kind of related to light, because in the Billy Meyer contact notes, there's Randolph Winters, who lived with him for a while and sort of part of the group for a bit. He ended up collecting all the notes together, making some tapes, a tape series. And we mentioned in the previous show, the Lucky Number 7 show, that Randolph Winters with the Billy Meyer contact notes in tape number 7 on creating a universe and the development of man. It was talking about the difference between a universe and a creation, and it was explaining how they come about, so what our universe is, and giving an idea how it's structured. And I remember from that it comes in 7 layers. So then it got me thinking along the terms of the physics, and then that brought us into it touched on Marko Rodin, because we had a look at some of the mathematics and how this Marko Rodin stuff, it's got a lot of stuff to do with numbers. Because mathematics, it's to do with this shape. This is why I find it so intriguing, because it's to do with this shape called the vector equilibrium, which relates to Nassim Harameyn's work. There's another person who's a physicist who's doing some funky different mathematical stuff that's a lot more simple. So I kind of relate Marko Rodin and Nassim Harameyn together. But this came off the back of this Lucky Number 7 show, where I was considering the number 7 coming up and being lucky seems to be so fundamental for so many reasons. And it seems that numbers are really matter. They really matter, and they seem to have like personalities, almost like they've got a different job. Like they were saying with the Theosophical Society writing about the 7 rays, they're talking in terms of, you can think of it as like 7 sailors in a boat of life, all from different walks of life, different shapes and sizes, and they all have to kind of sail together. You know, and how light in the spectrum isn't 7 light colours, but it's not 7 individual colours. They're a continuum spreading through and blending together. And I was thinking, there's something about that and the 7 and the light that seems fundamental, and I feel like it relates to this work of Marko Rodin in the vector equilibrium. So vortex mathematics, what we're going to look at today. Like I say, it gets a little bit complicated, but there's some so we'll try and make it fun and easy. But to start with then, so let's have a look. Let's get this image up so I can see a quick picture of Marko Rodin and some of these coils for the video viewers, and I'll just do a quick read through. Okay, so I mentioned in the previous episode then, so we did the significance of the number 7, specifically because Rodin had mentioned that there's a significance of numbers and the place in space, very much the same as the significance of the plutonic solids in physical reality. Okay, so following on from that Lucky 7 episode, we're going to delve into the sort of black hole physics and the number 7 in the vector equilibrium, which is, and on this, in the Marko Rodin example with the Rodin coil, there's a circle the way that you draw it, and you circle, they put the numbers 1 to 9. There's a kind of a Solomon's knot, but turned into a bit of a W shape. And then there's the numbers 1 to 9 all around this circle, because it's only using the numbers 1 to 9, not using double figures. Okay, so it's using mathematical numerology, and where the numbers are positioned are almost like the vectors that time moves on. Okay, it's kind of complicated to explain, and there's a kind of vortex in the middle, but it's offset. But notice that the number 7 was on the left as well, because, you know, this thing to do with balance and Taoism and the yin and the yang and the balancing of things. And I've noticed number 7 being on the left because we're doing physics stuff. I thought there's a curiosity about physics and stuff to do with looking into space and how things are created and, you know, fundamental particle type stuff. When you're looking into that, it turns out that number 7, following on from the previous episode, number 7's on the left on the Enneagram drawn for the Rodin coil.
And so I wondered if that had any significance, and it turns out that space and physics, like this astrophysics stuff, turns out a lot of it's left-sided, left-handed. And that's why our heart's on the left. Okay, so I found this article about from neutrinos final.com. Yeah, let's have a look. We've got this article about neutrinos. Maybe basically being, this is from neutrinos fnal.gov, mysteries and hard-headedness. So it says, from all things neutrino, I'm going to say links in the description, you can always check this out. So yes, from this, let me get rid of the fluff, and we'll put it into reader mode so you can see me a bit better. Okay, so neutrinos. Are all neutrinos left-handed in all things neutrino? So reading from the article. Just like people, neutrinos can be right-handed or left-handed. Southpaws will rejoice to hear that unlike the human population, where left-handedness is not the norm, all the neutrinos that we have ever seen are in fact left-handed. So neutrinos, so that's electron neutrinos then. The fundamental, parts of atoms. Okay, so electron neutrinos then are left-handed. Symmetrically, all of the antineutrinos that scientists have ever seen have been right-handed. So there is apparently a balance to even down to the neutrinos. Okay. And interestingly, in the work of Marko Rodin, we'll get this Enneagram picture back up, where we have his description, there's a drawing that he does of sort of the flow of how time is sort of shaped, where I said number 7 is on the left. We've got number 7 on the left. Electron neutrinos left-handed. Physics tends to be left-handed, and we had this looking number 7 link, and I thought, isn't that interesting? Is it that we're seeing a kind of a part of the smoking gun in the physics of things? Is what I was sort of getting to with that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So carrying on with the article. It seems odd to imagine particles having a handedness. Handedness refers to properties of a particle. Refers to two properties of a particle: the direction of its spin and how it relates to the direction the particle is traveling. If you curl your hands into a fist and extend your thumb towards one another, you'll see examples of right-handedness and left-handed particles. They have the same spin, represented by the direction that your fingers can curl, but have opposite directions of travel, represented by your thumb points. Another demonstration: if you curl your hands into a fist and extend your thumb towards the ceiling, you'll see examples of right-handed and left-handed particles. They have opposite spin, because your left fingers can curl toward clockwise and your right fingers will curl anti-clockwise, but have the same direction of travel, which is the way that your thumb points. Okay, so it can get a bit complicated. So they can be aligned in the same direction but point in opposite ways. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you can point your hands forward, can't you? Point your fingers forward and have your palms facing each other. But when you point your thumbs inwards, you're doing the same action, point them inwards. But one's pointing to the right, isn't it? And one's pointing to the left. The left one's pointing to the right, and the right one's pointing to the left. I guess, believe you me, I've this left-handed, right-sidedness. I've really got my head around this because I've done the rope darty stuff, and depending on which side you're swinging it, which side of your head you're swinging it, it's clockwise or anti-clockwise. So it gets confusing when you turn. But yes. So anyway, left-handed physics. So apparently, there is a thing in particle physics where things are left-handed. Once again, neutrinos turn out to be an anomaly. Other particles such as quarks and the other 3 leptons, the electron, the muon and the tau, have both left-handed and right-handed versions of both the matter particle and the antimatter partner. This leads to the question, Where are all the right-handed neutrinos and the left-handed antineutrinos? Indeed, what a great question. Where are all the right-handed neutrinos and the left-handed antineutrinos, I ask you? Who's hiding them all? They're stuffed in a drawer somewhere. But no, we can't. We checked all the drawers that we could. It remains a mystery. Scientists suspect that. However, scientists have got a theory. They suspect that because we haven't seen them yet, if these right-handed neutrinos exist, they will be very different from the left-handed neutrinos we know and love. It could be very different and strange. And that would then account, I suppose what they're suggesting there is that would then account for why we've not spotted them yet. Because they're so different, they're not coming within the parameters of where we're searching. As in, you're not looking hard enough, maybe. Or, indeed, don't exist. But that seems... everything else is a dipole, everything else is a dichotomer, so surely they've got a counterpart. Seems. Everything else has. So yeah, it remains a mystery. Scientists suspect that if we haven't seen them yet, if these right-handed neutrinos do exist, they'll be very different from the left-handed ones we know and love. Perhaps they are much heavier, or do not interact via the weak force, but instead interact only via gravity, the so-called sterile neutrinos. In fact, right-handed neutrinos are a good candidate for the sterile neutrinos that have been hinted at through various experiments but not yet discovered. Many experiments are trying right now to see whether these sterile neutrinos do really exist. So there we go. Then there's another little kind of science trick just unfolded itself there. There we go. There's this like a mislabeling thing going on. There could be a potential mislabeling or semantics thing going on here because they're saying, oh no, there's no such thing as right-handed ones. We have never existed right-handed neutrinos. But there's the thing. There's light neutrinos. In fact, they are neutrinos, and they're different to the left-handed ones. So they might be the right-handed ones. It's like they don't sound very sure. So then it sounds a bit like a semantics thing. Like, oh, we do already know about it, and we just haven't kind of admitted it or said or proved it, and we're calling it something else. You know. So you can see we've found a little thing there, and when you're doing this research, sometimes you find a little thing where it's a bit of a like, you don't know, and you don't want to say we don't have a clue. We're clueless about this, but it's probably that, you know. You know what I'm saying? That's the same shape and the same size and the same structural composition and the same this, but it might be that, might not. Not quite sure. Not going to commit to it because science and credibility is everything in science. So it is. So anyway, sorry, I get distracted. Anyway, digressing. So left-handed physics, lucky number 7, physics, vortex maths is the left hand and the balancing. What is it with numbers? This is my question. What is it with numbers? They seem significant. And we've got left-handed neutrinos. So what's this? So what's all this? So, okay, so getting back to Marko Rodin then. So this vortex maths, how does it all relate? Numbers. Numbers is how it all relates. So let's get back onto this. And so we had number 7, Marko Rodin. And the reason it sort of relates to the previous show also is because we're talking vortex mathematics. I mean, in the 7 layers, as in the lucky number 7 show previous, there was 7 layers of creation. So what got my mind thinking on this. And that also, I've got a picture on screen for the video viewers. This is the shape on screen that the Billy Meier aliens, the Pleiadians, say from their science. That's how a universe starts out. This shape, it starts off as a 4 and moves in a kind of a spiral. A tight kind of spiral moving upwards and then makes a big wide loop all the way around itself, and then that spirals back into the coil again from the bottom. So it spirals out the top and feeds itself back in at the bottom. So it's the same thing. It says it's a vortex. So that's why I'm relating it to this vortex mathematics, and also it's the same thing with this vector equilibrium which we saw in the previous show. And I'll just quickly play the animation again. A torus, a donut shape, is the most efficient shape for energy transfer. And if you point 2 vortexes towards each other, then that's the shape that you get, the donut shape. A blood cell is also a donut shape. If you notice the shape of a blood cell, it's the most efficient shape for energy transfer. It's basically the meeting point of two vortexes. Okay, that's why this vortex mathematics business seems to matter, and it's there with Taoism and the yin and the yang and the dichotomy both collecting together in one spot, almost as if we kind of exist in this spot in the middle where these two vortexes meet. Okay, but it gets a little bit more, complicated than that with this, because we're doing mathematics and high. This is basically, I wanted to bring this to people's attention because this is high physics stuff. And this particular mathematics of Marko Rodin, he had a student who championed him, and then his student kind of famously did a TED talk talking about this stuff, and then it got kind of pulled down and they kind of retracted it. And when you get sort of peer-reviewed, to get a retraction, once it's been accepted, is pretty bad news. It don't normally happen. It has to be really bad. And so to get on the TED Talk and then to have it kind of pulled down, it don't look good. So I just wanted to bring this to people's attention because it did have that enough notoriety to get on a TED Talk, and then sort of got pulled back. And I'm wondering if this is another case of, not only is this a vortex mathematics we're talking about, is this another black hole of physics in terms of where some information is not allowed to be spoken about? Like I've often joked in the past that the Smithsonian Institute, that collect, the antiques and, things that get discovered and handed in, to the museum people, Smithsonian Institute in America, a lot of those artifacts, especially things that dispute the status quo of history, they tend to disappear. They've got caught destroying stuff as well. So especially things to do with giants, like giant axes and giant bones, or giant skeletons that are human. Got caught dumping a lot of that stuff in the sea and whatnot, smashing them up. And they're known for kind of losing stuff. So I don't know. But anyway, well, we're gonna go and have a little bit of a break in a sec, because it's sneaking up on us. So, but after the break, what we'll do is we'll continue. We'll talk about Marko Rodin's student, and then we'll perhaps have a look at the controversial talk that got him sort of banned. Well, they've got the mathematics kind of banned and retracted, and then we'll have a look at that, and we'll sort of take it from there. So, from me, Liam Martin, on the Exiled Vortex podcast, please just bear with us for just a few minutes. We'll have a quick little break, a few station messages for the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, because we'll be broadcasting or re-uploading this afterwards. So if you're not listening on the stream, might be listening on the radio show. Sure, shouts out to you. You've done well for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, digital broadcasting. I'm Liam Martin. This is the Exiled Vortex podcast, and we'll return after just a few minutes break.
Because we're almost impacted by Venus. This is all fully understood. And the astrophysicists have to look at this, and the people that are geologists and all the is.
They supersize the common core, which, as it turns out, is disgusting.
Obviously, somebody's playing with us.
Yeah, they're showing off. Killing epidemiologists with the common cold. It is impressive.
All the is. What's this?
I want to know who's next.
At least identified as we tried, but the computer went off the chart.
Maybe we can figure out who's next.
Normal human beings have 40 DNA memo groups, which is more than enough for each species to perpetuate itself. This had 200,000.
You did it. What was that? How did you do it? Did you have that?
It was September. He was part of the original 12 sign travel back to observe humanity. He was banished for sympathy. Fugitives sign tracking. The same fugitives were in possession of the anomaly.
Why go to such lengths to protect a genetic defect?
I do not know. I would like a protocol suspension to travel there to when I can eradicate these resistors.
We are not prepared to deal with a readjustment of probability.
They have spotted you.
The fugitives are inconsequential.
1% chance of survival. Yet he did. Is there something wrong with you? 1%. I am experiencing something that I do not understand. The idea of ending their existence consumes me.
They are insignificant. So, no.
Some people believe that crystals have spiritual properties and can be used to connect with the ancient civilization of Atlantis. They believe the crystals were once used by the Atlanteans for spiritual healing, meditation, and communication. Some people believe that the crystals can still be used for these purposes today. The Atlantis crystal power myth is the belief that crystals from Atlantis have special powers. This myth is often associated with the idea that Atlantis was a highly advanced civilization that was destroyed by a natural disaster. Some people believe that the crystals from Atlantis survived the disaster and can be used to tap into the power of Atlantis. Have you ever tried? Check out Spirit Magica Crystal Shop and use coupon code Troubled Minds, all one word, for 25% off your first purchase.
Welcome back from the break, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. We return on the Exiled Vortex podcast with me and Liam Martin. I'm back on with the show. Thanks for bearing with us for that break. I'm going to continue with the show on the Exiled Vortex, work of Marko Rodin of Vortex-Based Mathematics, and the work of his student Randy Powell, which is getting to. And I just remembered about so many screens. Remembered about the chat. I have to get a certain screen up. But hi, so shouts out to Ben, Eriko, Daryl's in the chat as well. Might be a couple of lurkers. There's a possibility James might be lurking in the back there. Solcido Paranormal, who's going to be going to the Mid-Michigan Paracon the weekend after Halloween. So it's coming up. There still might be some tickets left still. If you're in Michigan and you want to meet James Solcido, be representing for the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. There we go. I knew it. I could sense it, James. So he just waved in the chat. I could sense something. I've been hanging around with him and getting some of his because he's the paranormal expert. So maybe I'm honing my skills, my psychic skills. But anywho, talking about scary things, let's get back talking about high particle physics because it seems to scare some scientists, or TED Talks at least. But in fairness, let's have a look at it. What we're going to do is we're going to read what Ted said about it, and then I'll do a quick read up about Randy Powell, who's the student of Marko Rodin. We'll see why Ted have removed it, and then it's brief, so we can play it. I think we've got time to in about 10 minutes. I think I thought it was a well presented presentation, so to speak. At least that I thought it was a decent presentation. But anyway, this is my notion. So this Vortex Mathematics of Marko Rodin, which you really have to sit and think about. There's a trouble with this, trying to present this in an hour show. You really have to kind of do your homework on this one in particular. You can't like flick through it like a magazine. You have to kind of sit and let it soak in and let your brain catch up. And then you have a kind of aha moment where you're like, yeah, gotcha. And then forevermore, brain's different. But that's how it goes. But anyway, student of Marko Rodin, Randy Powell, is a figure who gained some recognition for his association with Marko Rodin and his work on vortex-based mathematics. Randy Powell was a student of Marko Rodin and played a role in popularizing and promoting Rodin's ideas, particularly those relating to the unique mathematical system and the Rodin Coil. Randy Powell and Marko Rodin have advocated for the significance and the potential applications of vortex-based mathematics and the Rodin Coil. He was given a presentation, and he has given a presentation and lectures on these topics, and has produced videos and other educational material to share these ideas with a wider audience. He has also been involved in discussions and debates about the practicality and the implications of these concepts. The caveat, of course, is it's important to note that while Randy's work, like the work of Rodin, has been notable and it's had some notable popularity. This TED Talk was in 2010. It's not gained widespread acceptance within the mainstream scientific community. Many of the claims associated with vortex mathematics and the Rodin Coil remain controversial and have not been substantiated through rigorous scientific research, according to the official sources. As a result, the ideas are generally considered outside the scientific consensus, and they should be approached with critical and skeptical perspective, which is fair enough. Be a bit skeptical, but at the same time, Marko Rodin claimed that it had one of these coils tested at Hewlett-Packard. I remember him mentioning that, and it managed to get to a TED Talk. But TED Talk have been known to ban other people before. They've notably banned Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake. So let's see. Let's have a little TED Expo, not an expose kind of thing. Not trying to expose them as fraud that kind of way. But let's have just a quick look. I want to give them the fair dues. So I found on Courier.com where someone happened to have the quote. It was just easy to find what Ted said about them retracting this talk. So Ted's explanation was, Randy Powell's talk on stage at the TEDx Charlotte 2010 came under criticism for its lack of scientific validity. Criticism came from mathematicians and science writers, as well as threads on specialist science and math blogs and other online communities. Members of TED and TEDx teams watched the talk, sought further advice from experts, and ultimately agreed that the criticism had merit and was serious enough to warrant removal of the talk from TEDx official YouTube channel in compliance with our policy. Randy Powell was given several opportunities. This is Ted saying this. Randy Powell has been given several opportunities to directly defend his work, but did not do so. And this is coming from Emily Magnus, managing editor of TED.com for 12 years. Okay, so as per the policy, it's been removed. It could not point us to the data online during a call, but agreed to, during the call, to provide his data by email, including a detailed 10-page paper for a further independent review by mathematicians and possible replication of his experiments by physicists. Neither the paper nor any other data was ever received. We consider the matter closed. In response to this incident, TEDx has classified its policies on the scientific validity of talks as working with independent TEDx organisers to help them access more and better resources for vetting speakers. So they've put it all out in public. They've said absolutely not. And so, yeah, so that's what they've said about it. But what I'm thinking is, to be fair to Ted, I've read their statement, and then I'm going to be fair to Randy Powell and Marko Rodin and let him actually do the presentation and let you decide whether it sounds like total bunk. Because if you read some of the criticisms, I think they're a bit harsh. Because this is 10 minutes. And like I say, that Marko Rodin maths lecture I had to watch, 4.5 hours, I had to watch it 7 times. 7 times to get my head around it before I was even in a position to assess whether or not it's bunk. And I'm supposed to be pretty smart. And maybe that's not helped. Maybe that makes it more difficult. If you think you're smart or are smart or whatever, I don't know. But I don't mind admitting it. It took me 7 attempts to get my head around it. And I don't know if I've ever had to put that much work into one idea. Ever. This is why it's notable. It's why I'm kind of passionate about this one. Graham Hancock. Yes, Rico. Graham Hancock. Well, we'll get onto them because he got banned talk as well as Rupert Sheldrake. So we'll look at Ted after this. But we'll give Randy his opportunity to do his presentation. I keep talking about it. So let's bring Randy Powell onto the stage, and we can watch this because, like I say, they retracted it anyway. And as the YouTube video poster here is a vital history, and they've put a copyright description in there, copyright disclaimer under section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance of fair usage. We're going to view this and then we're commenting on it. We're doing a show about this, so we're going to play this little talk by Randy Powell on Vortex Mathematics. And I think it's not too bad a presentation, actually. 10 minutes long, so I'm going to sit back and chill and get ready to present back after this. I might have to make a comment halfway through. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, here we go. I hope you enjoy. I better get some sound up.
This gentleman right here.
Thank you, sir. My name is Michael Shore. I'm here in Charlotte. First, it's an honor to have you here with us today. I'm concerned that your decision to allow offshore drilling could have the effect of chilling investment into alternate sources of energy. And I'm interested in what incentives you're going to be proposing to establish the conditions and to stimulate research and development and expansion of that critical sector.
Well, I think it's a great question. We invested in wind. We invested in solar. We invested in biomass. We invested in research and development. We invested in battery technologies. Here's the challenge that we have. We don't yet have the technological breakthroughs that can completely replace fossil fuels. So for the next 10 years, next 20 years, we're still going to be using oil. We're still going to be using coal. We're still going to be using natural gas. We're still going to be using the traditional sources to fuel our cars, to heat our homes.
So as they're mentioning, talking about energy systems, got some cuts here because this is what this physics is going to change energy systems. Looking at the free energy. So like I say, this stuff gets suppressed big time.
You saw where I was
Shouts
going.
out to Ben.
So I'd like to say, with all due respect to the president, that this is me letting you know. So I'm here speaking because I'm at the forefront right now of the most advanced mathematics ever known to mankind. And because my teacher, Marko Rodin, discovered an unknown mathematical language inherent to nature, and I found the key of how to model it in three-dimensional space. The saying is that mathematics is the language of God, but until now, no one's been speaking God's language. What we have is the grand unified field theory. With it, you can create inexhaustible free energy, end all diseases, produce unlimited food, travel anywhere in the universe, build the ultimate supercomputer, artificial intelligence, and obsolete all existing technology. How is it possible to make such outrageous claims? Because we have the secret that connects all of the world's technologies together, numbers. We discovered that numbers are real, a living language, a jigsaw puzzle that when pieced together no longer creates a rendition or approximation of reality. Numbers are reality. Neither flat, nor arbitrary, nor imaginary, nor irrational. They are actually points or locations that fold out into a 3D shape defining space and time literally. Mr. Rodin discovered an equation that was so eloquent in its simplicity that it involved no more than 9 numbers around a circle. And with it, you can do all the functions of all the branches of math instantly. It displays a perfect spin symmetry of numbers forming mirror images just like our two hands, a feat that's baffled countless scientists and mathematicians. When you look at this symbol, you immediately see it's composed of 2 aspects. One is this lazy 8, or the infinity symbol, and the other is the red pyramid at the top. The infinity symbol is the equation for the physical world we live in. It's a circuit or a pathway of motion. 6 numbers that form a hexagon. Thus, such diverse phenomena as light polarizing, beehives, Saturn's North Pole, and snowflakes are all versions of this hexagon. These shapes form pathways for any matter in motion, which is never straight, but always at an angle. Nothing in the physical world ever moves in a straight line, not a bullet shooting, not lightning coming down out of the sky. Everything is a coil, even a photon coming from a distant star, proving relativity exists. Our body is called this mortal coil. Our DNA is a coil, and it's no coincidence that it matches our equation perfectly. It makes us into a vortex machine that sucks things in at the top and shoots them out at the bottom. As it does this, it regulates its own temperature, a really important concept for technologies that are always overheating. It's an imploding, exploding machine, a gyroscope, an antenna built to perfectly transmit and receive waveforms. In fact, Marko's antenna designs are protecting the four corners of the United States because they were found to be the most sensitive antennas ever created. Around the same time, he also presented at the largest genetic engineering conference in the world on DNA sequencing, thus proving the ability of this math to cross between the sciences. Jonas Salk, who was the inventor of the polio vaccine, stated that this work was so advanced it would never be understood in Marko's lifetime unless he cloned himself. And so maybe that's what I am. But what's the connection between all these sciences? And the answer is simple. It's doubling. When you follow what these numbers are doing, you get doubling. And why might that be significant? Well, our cells double to create us. We have one cell conceptions, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Musical scales are doubling. The binary code for computers doubling. Nuclear reactions, squares and square roots, all doubling. Doubling is motion at an angle, or what's called angular momentum. It's the whirlwind and treadmill of creation. It spins the atoms in our body, the Earth on its axis, the solar system, galaxy, the whole universe. And so what causes this doubling? What is it that's being transmitted and received? And that's where that red pyramid comes in. This pyramid is representative of what we call flux fields. We have electricity. At the center of electricity is magnetism. At the center of magnetism is a flux. It's a higher dimensional energy known by many names such as dark energy, tachyons, monopoles, gravitons. We call it etheron energy. It's the energy that's keeping us conscious and alive, and it's not a static or stationary energy. It's a pulse, it's a surge, it's the beating heart of all existence. It's the ultimate fundamental particle in the universe, the God particle, and I know how to harness it. This energy is the source of all time, motion, and vibration. It's the only thing that comes from the whole, or the zero, the center of the cyclone. It emanates linearly in all directions, penetrating everything without any resistance. It cannot be shielded. As it penetrates, it leaves a grain. It shows you how things move, how they stick together or come apart. It animates everything. It's the source of the non-decaying spin of the electron. If you combine it with a coil, you get a perfect mathematical vortex consisting of a positive electromagnetic energy radiating out and a negative backdraft counter space, which is the same as gravity. It allows for contraction. Etherons are literally the glue that holds the universe together. Einstein called it an inertia ether. Ultimately, when this is arrayed in true 3D shape, which is what I discovered, it forms a shape commonly known as a torus or a donut. This is nearly 20 years later. What I found was this. Essentially, this thing is a heat sink. It's a temperature regulator, just like your human body. It's a universal geometry designed for maximum efficiency and energy transformation, and an ecological method by which the universe reprocesses matter, using it as a coolant source to bathe itself at the core of a black hole and then dissipate heat away out of a white hole. It's based on compression, decompression, just like we use to control temperatures in technologies like refrigerators. The Big Bang was just one of these reactions giving birth to this expanding universe, which is expanding because we're on the southern half. The northern half is contracting. Okay? Space expands, time contracts, black hole to white hole. The torus is what everything becomes at its maximum acceleration. This experiment you're going to watch while I finish my talk, I want you to keep in mind when you're watching this magnet spinning around, there's no energy going into this coil. It's totally turned off. And I'll continue. Your blood cells are a torus. DNA is a torus. Magnetic fields, galaxies, all toruses. That's why a tornado is more powerful than an atom bomb. It's a one-way, living, systemic electrical machine, a self-sustaining jet. You might say a flying saucer. I found the way to calculate this torus in a perfect 3D, 4D, and higher mathematical hologram that can be scaled up and down to infinity, and which we now call the Abha torus. Or sometimes we refer to it by Marko's name, which is the flux thruster, atom pulsar, electrical venturi, space-time implosion field generator coil. And with it, it's possible to create a localized space-time implosion, a controlled desktop black hole. That magnet's still spinning. There's no energy in the coil. This is the final technology, the philosopher's stone, a reactionless drive unaffected by any weight that it carries. It's a true model of an atom, and with it I have the key to the periodic table, which a professor from the University of North Carolina told me could be the greatest scientific discovery of all time. we can, for the first time, cross from one science to another, unbroken, whether it's subatomic physics, periodic table, computer science, DNA. Remember, I said cure all diseases, artificial intelligence, all the result of ether-on flux fields. And so simply put, this torus does it all. It's a blueprint for a perfectly efficient magnetic field generating coil, a spaceship, a surgical tool, a supercomputer, and even a high-fidelity speaker all in one. Are such things possible? Frankly, yes, they are, and my team is ready to develop them at any time. What you see here was just from the most primitive approximation of my work. But the truth and reality of our project is it suffered from a tremendous lack of attention. It has been peer-reviewed by some of the best names in science, but because of our unwillingness to sell it out for private interests, it remains in the hands of exhausted volunteers like myself. Our goal is to create a grassroots energy and technology revolution by turning this information, this knowledge over to the public in an open source project. Science museum exhibits for kids, a simple book, a simple DVD, that's all we're looking to do. And by that, we want to turn it into the hands of the people to produce and save the whole world. Thank you very much.
So there we have it then. So that was from... Oh, I've got the alarm up there. Yeah, so that was from Randy Powell from the TED Talk from 2010. So Randy Powell, like say, student of Marko Rodin. I don't think that was that bad at all. I know they're saying, oh, they didn't have the scientific principles to back it up, they couldn't provide the data and such, but I don't see why. Because I'm a bit confused here with this one, because I watched it. I watched the one from years before. I watched the one from around that time with the guys that got where Rodin's got the white vest on. You know, you can buy like it mentioned in the profile for Randy Powell. There's a lot of educational material. You know, there's stuff out there that's been put out there specifically by supporters and volunteers who are into this stuff to educate you how it works. Okay. And it really ties in well with the Nassim Haramein stuff. That was another statement. I'm glad it mentioned it in the Charlotte TED Talk. Then I'm glad Randy Powell mentioned that. You know, the universe is in two parts. It's got an expanding part that we're in. We're seeing it expanding, but there's a contracting part, and that's what the second law of in the second law of Newtonian physics. Every action, or is it the third law? Every action has equal and opposite reaction. It's one of the very first fundamental things. So if the universe is expanding, if we're to go with that, then there's got to be a contracting part, and Nassim Haramein used to be talking about all the time. The contraction into a point, so it's into a vortex. And Nassim Haramein was saying, well, the singularity of vortex, gravity, is strong enough to account for the energy and the mass, and because these high equations, there's always a shortfall, massive shortfall of mass. And so then you get this thing, then they invent these forces called the strong force, these quantum mechanics forces, which may be a thing. I want to say invent, I don't want to say this made it up, but they have to account for things. So they say, well, it's this force then, it must be this, or it must be that. It must be the strong force, and you found a stronger one, and you've got to call it something else. But Nassim Haramein did the equations and said that a vortex, a tiny, you know, a micro black hole inside every atom, would account for why the protons in the core of an atom don't fly apart, because they're all positively charged. They should repel each other, but something's holding them together. So I think that's what they're calling the strong force, that's holding these protons together in each atom. When Haramein was saying, well, a vortex, just gravity, put gravity in the center of each atom, just a tiny little micro singularity, and that's enough to hold the protons together, enough to make the math work. And that's another vortex situation. So the work is out there. I think it's just too controversial, and it's not being accepted. And because this is talking in the realms of, here's an underlying principle of the universe that's manifesting everything. I think this is a problem. It sounds a bit too gaudy and a bit too, you don't have much control over it. And in fact, let me get this image up for the video viewers. We'll get this Rodin coil up. Yeah, let's do this. Let's get this Rodin coil up. And hopefully it might show you a picture where the numbers emanate. because it's like a manifestation. And the way the numbers work, so why I'm excited about it is because, you know, I type numbers at the end of Rodin Coil. Just a basic keyword search. I've just typed Rodin Coil numbers. And if I'm hoping there's going to be a legible sketch. We're not really going to be able to see it. Okay, so if you imagine a donut covered in numbers, okay, there is a pattern to these numbers, the numbers 1 to 9, and they fall in certain positions and they're mathematically predictable, and it's all about doubling, as the guy mentioned. It's hard to describe, but if you pick a number 9, if you've got a donut with all these numbers on a grid all over it, when you pick the number 9 on it, everything's basically emanating out in a spiral from the number 9. And if you find another number 9 on the donut, you'll find the same thing again. All the numbers are emanating out from this number 9, and they all add up to 9 all the time. Okay, because there's an anomaly. So we start with the lucky number 7 link, which led to the physics that it might be something to do with the layers of how reality is made in the physics. And with this vortex mathematics, it looks as if everything's spinning out. Everything's spinning off this number 9, which is like a never-changing, immutable number. And it is like the God number. They call it the God number because the number 9, in this case, that's like the vortex. It looks like a spiral, a number 9. It is a spiral when you draw it. And the number 9, it envelops in itself forever. Because if you multiply 9 by any number, it always adds up to 9. Every time. So if you multiply 9 by 2 9s, makes 18. But that's 1 plus 8, which is a 9. And I've tried it. You do it with massive numbers, and then you have to add up all the digits. But it always adds up to 9. You know, if it's an 18, that's 1 plus 8 is a 9. You know, if it comes up to 27, it'll be 2 plus 7, which is a 9. And it multiply 9 by any number, and it's just always 9. And it looks, and it's shaped like a vortex. A 9 is a spiral. So it's like one of them really strange things. Yeah, I said let's refer to the chat and see what we say, because Enrico said about the suppressing the technology. Yeah, Enrico, that was the thing about it. And Ben mentioned like the evolution is creation, and that's what it is. It's a living organism. I think this is what's kind of a bit scary for science, is that universes are a living organism that are evolving. Right, they're evolving and they're all spinning out from a vortex. And it's like, why is space black? Why is space black? Tomidis, we're talking about vortexes because we're in a massive black hole. We're in a massive vortex somewhere. And the Taoists are saying there's 2 vortexes and we're in the middle, and you know, we're in a giant black hole. That's why space is black. Yeah, gotta be, must be. This is the thing. We're in the expanding part of these 2 vortexes. I'll get the image up again. Get that little animation going on for the video viewers. Look, we're in the vortex. We're in the center of these 2 vortexes, and you know we're in the expanding vortex. Oh, switch the page up. Yeah, we're in the expanding vortex, and then there's a contracting vortex. So it's space expands and time contracts. It seems to be the way that this stuff works. So, yeah. But anyway, talking about, so what else in the chat? Yeah, so Enrico mentioned the suppressed technologies, evolution and creation, the Ben comment there. I'm sure I've missed a comment by, oh, here we go. Yeah, it is interesting, James. It isn't. It's wild stuff. And we mentioned, Enrico mentioned, I wonder if this inertia ether is related to Reich's orgone energy. Oh, I still dream of organone. I wake up crying. It's Kate Bush song, Cloud Bursting, which is about Wilhelm Reich. Check out the Kate Bush song. Kate Bush got a famous 80s singer, well, still singing now, but she's got notoriety with that Stranger Things TV show. Because, you know, one of the characters, the favourite record is famous Kate Bush song, Running Up the Hill. But she did it. You want to check that video for Cloud Bursting. It's another famous Kate Bush song, but Cloud Bursting, it's got Donald Sutherland acting in it, and he's playing like her father, and he's like an Einstein type character, and it's Wilhelm Reich. He's basically invented a cloud burster, and the government come and take him away. And she didn't know what to do, so she runs up and turns on the cloudburster to prove that it works, a proof of concept, while it's being taken away. So it's like, it can be somewhat of a happy ending, even though you're obviously never going to see the light of day again. Agents have took you off, but at least you can prove it, you know, your daughter switched it on and prove your cloudburster worked. So this organ energy, I think it is. Bit loud there, sorry. I think it is. I think this is what it, I think you're onto something there, Rico. Because I think this orgone energy is chi, is prana, yeah? It's orgasm energy. Here's where the name comes from, organic, orgasmo. Wilhelm Reich was studying it, but Kinsey was studying it. He was studying sexuality, doing surveys around America, and Freud was studying this stuff, but he was studying it in terms of, you know, the psychology impact stuff. So Freud was doing psychology and sex. Kinsey was doing sexuality. They were studying the orgasm, but Wilhelm Reich wanted to know about the physical, like almost, he was going at it more like an engineer, the physicist. Wilhelm Reich was looking at an orgasm, looking at where's the fundamental energy being, where's it being produced? How's it being produced? Where is it? What's it doing in life? How do you harness it? And I think that's where the orgone generators come from. And I think it seems to me there is something to it. It's just really spiraling. And then you've got pyramid power. And pyramid power is a separate kind of topic. Because the shape of a pyramid itself seems to be a collecting type situation. So we see it with the orgone energy, whereas is this, say, etheric kind of energy that's proposed to exist. And if it has to pass organic and a mixture of organic and metal materials in layers, some of it can get trapped. So it can make it like a collector. And pyramids themselves seem to also collect energy in the center. The very shape of it. To do with the plutonic solids and the way that nature is placed on reality. Because the plutonic solids are like the kind of framework that reality sits on. You know, so it's kind of lofty stuff. It's really big deal thinking. So that's why I say you kind of have to do your homework with topics like this, with the physics of them. Really sit and think about it. Because I'm not saying I've got the answers, but you really have to sit and think. Because and the way that this kind of mathematics and this kind of physics is coming about, it's because it's vortexy. You're like, it said you're the center of the vortex. In fact, I made a little joke in my head. It's like, is that why, if people they're a center of a vortex in themselves, is that why sometimes people really suck? Because everyone's a black hole, right? But yeah, I think some of this stuff's just a bit too wild for science, to be honest. Oh, Donald Sutherland, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah, there you go. He's a bit of a sci-fi guy then. But yeah, he's a cool actor, Donald Sutherland. I do quite rate him, to be honest. And that's coming from Rico. And from James in the chat, Salcedo Media. Aren't some pyramids 8-sided, which means 8 points to the ground, 9th at the top? Well, this is the thing. Oh, now here we go, James. Now you're getting all esoteric. Solomon's Kianas. Okay, so the pyramids of Giza, they got 5 sides. Because you can get a tetrahedron pyramid. You get them, the smallest pyramid sides you can get is like 4. Really, it's not really 3. It's 3 that you see. You see the 3 faces on the top, and then obviously there's the floor as well. There's the ground. So there's always that plane. So the pyramids in Giza, you think of them as having 4 faces, but it's 4 faces that you see. They've obviously got a floor as well. So they have 5, don't they? But as James points out, if you cut the cap off, instead of it coming to a point, that one difference, because normally it would have 5 points. But if you just snip that point off at the top, all of a sudden, that 1 point coming to a point, it's got 4 edges. So now it's suddenly, you've got 4 corners instead of 1. So now you just added 3 corners onto your corner geometry. So where it had 5, it's now got 6, 7, 8, yeah. It's got 8. Yeah. So when you take the capstone off, if you think about the points, it had 4 corners, and then the point at the top is 5. Well, if you chop that off, now the top bit's got 4 corners too. So you've got your 4 corners at the bottom, 4 corners at the top, so that's 8. And then where's the invisible number 9? Where's the invisible number 9? Well, there's a great esoteric symbolic point, James, because when you cut the capstone off the pyramid, yeah, New World Order stuff. In fact, let's get a New World Order-y capstone missing picture. NWO pyramid. So people can visualize it. who've never heard of this, I'll put no capstone. If we can imagine a pyramid with no capstone, come on, there must be a no. Yeah, so we've got that anyway. So New World Order pyramid, missing capstone, whatever. So the point is, when the capstone's missing, that there is a significance there, that there is something else to go in with it. Like, I couldn't really find the New World Order one, but when the capstone's missing, what it does mean is that the pyramid is like supposed to be God's house, and when the capstone's not on it, it means the roof's been taken off. So it means that the house is like incomplete, but it's left incomplete on purpose. You leave the roof off because God's in the heavens, right? And God comes in through the roof, not through the door. So you leave the capstone off as if to say, our gods haven't returned yet, or God hasn't arrived yet. And you put the capstone on only after. So even though it might be a little side point, that is quite a fascinating little thread, James. It's probably a numerology show and pyramids just on that. Because if you take, let's say, if you take a 5-sided pyramid like the ones in Egypt and chop the top off, all of a sudden that number 5 geometry, the freedom number geometry for the corners at least, gets turned into an 8-corner situation, which is infinity, which is Solomon's knot, which is the Enneagram shape that we saw with Marko Rodin's coil business. The shape, the Solomon's knot, is a figure of 8. And in the way he draws the geometry for how time moves for this Rodin Coil mathematics, it's Solomon's knot, but it's just, they're not rounded, it's been stretched out, so it's got some points. You know, it's more like a W shape. But it's still following that same infinity path. So the number 8 comes in there, and when the capstone's missing, sorry, just to finish the point, when the capstone's missing off the pyramid, it means that God's missing, and it's awaiting the arrival, which is why people get into the Luciferianism and the Satanism with the New World Order, because they think, oh, the capstone missing means they're waiting for the devil to come, they're waiting for Lucifer to arrive before they can finally put the capstone on of the New World Order world takeover, kind of thing. I do believe that's all that works. Sorry, got me on a bit of a sidetrack there, James. Damn it, James. So aren't some pyramids 8-sided? I suppose I bet they can be. In fact, James, again, you've done it again. In fact, come to think of it, the pyramids of Giza, those flat planes, those 4 sides that you see above the ground, they aren't 4 sides. They are 8-sided, James, because they've all got a dividing line down the middle. They're all slightly indented, like a parabolic, indentation, like a satellite dish. They're bent in, concave. So yeah, damn it, James, they are 8-sided. They have got a dividing line down the middle, and we only know because you can only see it at certain times of the year. Typical ancients, certain times of the year, the way the sun is in the shadow. You can see one face is in shadow. On one of the faces, you can see it in shadow down one half, but not on the other. So there's showing that there's a slight angle, ever so slight indentation. So they are 8-sided. Oh my God. And what's 2 8s? 16, which is a 7, which was the last show, James. Stop it. Stop it with your number magic. Anyway, anywho, what are we doing for time? Because I'm sure I started at past, and I do an hour show. And so according to my clock, I've been going for an hour and 10 minutes, but the live stream says I've only been going for 52 minutes. So live on air, if we do the math, it looks like I've experienced some missing time. And I was live the whole way through, and you didn't see me get taken away, and I didn't remember getting taken away. So if we check back in the live stream and I don't get kidnapped by aliens, then something's wrong with time. Innit? Gotta be. It's 10:10. It's 12:40. It's 40 minutes past midnight for me. I started at 11:30 at night, so 12:30. The show should have been over. But the live stream says I only been going 52 minutes. This is weird. I started right on the clock. I made sure as well. I don't know. Stupid number magic. Time. We've broke time. Rico. We've been doing number magic, which is James. It's James with his 8s, casting 8s off like like some kind of comic character from X-Men, just tossing cards in there. Like a card-carrying nutter. James comes in with his 8 cards and his 8 ball in a sock. The tech might just be wrong, says James. Well, yeah, and that. Aliens have given us more time. It's true. It's true. Well, that's what I thought. We've got more time. Let's just do more show. In fact, let's make the most of it until time re-ravels itself. So, mentioned Graham Hancock earlier, and Randy Powell got shut down. They did as well. So let's give them a quick shout out. Get them up on camera. So, from wokedaddy.com, these 2 banned TED Talks will make you question everything. Actual ideas worth spreading. This is from wokedaddy.com. Is there a war on consciousness? With an event-themed visions for transition, changing existing paradigms and refining values for a more beautiful world, you expect a welcoming environment for controversial approaches of reality instead of 2 banned TED Talks. It does not seem that the scientific board of TED agree. It is because Graham Hancock suggested that an altered state of consciousness through ayahuasca could largely benefit humanity. Is this the reason that's got TED so uppity? Or is it because he showed how certain states of consciousness are valued more than others because they are profitable? Is it because Rupert Sheldrake ridiculed mainstream science by destroying its foundational dogmas? Or is it because he demonstrated the obvious adolescence of the materialistic worldview? Well, there's a good point. That's a fire opening from wokedaddy.com there, bringing up the fact that the Rupert Sheldrake talk and the Graham Hancock talk both got removed by a TED talk, and straight away he's gone straight to the rubber meets the road. The materialistic worldview that we've been running with for the last century, 2 centuries, has got us so far, but now it's like it's broke. We found broken bits in it, and it's adolescent. He uses the word. It's adolescent, and this is why they're acting childish sometimes. I would submit, and yet the tactic you'll notice is to switch it and say, "Oh, you're the childish one. You're the one that doesn't citate your work. You're the one that does the academic peer review. You're the one." No. It gets a bit like that, and it is all reputation as well. So what's reputation? Then it's fronting. Like at school, you want good rep. You're fronting. No wonder people like Einstein saying you're not going to change the problems of this world with the same thinking that created it, because that kind of thinking, you know what I'm talking about. It belongs in the playground. It needs to stay in the playground. So, anyway, that's where it looks like we're going with this. But let's just carry on reading this article, because I think the academic community does get a bit childish with some of this stuff. Okay, so is there war on consciousness? Is the question. Whatever the right answer is, we have 2 or 3, including Randy Powell's, banned TED Talks that should raise questions. This article is saying at least these 2 should raise questions. While it was removed from TED's YouTube channel, many people re-uploaded the videos. This censorship sparked a big controversy, although remember TED said that they're not censoring because they're still leaving them available but it's in a kind of naughty corner sort of thing. So they're still up somewhere. So anyway, but the article says, the censorship sparked controversy. There's no doubt in my mind that there is a deliberate will to maintain outdated paradigms, but for what reason? For commerce? For control? And the writer says, I'll let you form your own opinion. Yeah, well, exactly. We will all form our own opinion because we're all adults here. So that sort of goes without saying, but you kind of have to say it and get yourself in trouble. But yeah, Graham Hancock did a talk, The War on Consciousness, I say, outlining, the animosity towards psychedelics and the use of ayahuasca, and ignoring the potential great benefits that could be from that. So that's Graham Hancock's talk got banned. And Rupert Sheldrake, this is why Rupert Sheldrake got banned. Just listen to the title. The Rupert Sheldrake talk was called The Science Delusion. Okay, and he says the writer from this blog has put a couple of quotes here from Rupert Sheldrake. It says, there's a conflict, Sheldrake says, there's a conflict in the heart of science between science as its method of inquiry based on reason, evidence, hypothesis, and collective investigation, and science as a belief system or as a worldview. And unfortunately, the worldview aspect of science has come to inhabit the constrict free. It's going to inhibit the constrict free inquiry that is the very lifeblood of the scientific endeavor. So what it's saying is science has taken its worldviews, and the worldviews are locking up the actual scientific study and scientific investigations. As in, you're not getting the grant money. You're not getting the grant money because I'll say that again. You're not getting the grant money because you're not following the status quo. And then your works aren't getting promoted, your papers aren't getting published, you're not getting the thing, you're not the prestigious name, you didn't get the big bucks to study the good stuff, you know. Us, James, in the Restream chat here, a lot of people do that, unfortunately, in scientific and religious communities, instead of just being open to different ideas. And that's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, I've seen, even with talking paranormal stuff, James, and talking about, you know, the woo-woo, I've seen a UFO conference where there was an anonymous Asian couple that wanted to remain anonymous because they wanted to tell people that they'd had an abduction, that there was a man and a woman, and the woman was getting abducted, and he fitted CCTV cameras, and he fitted a night vision camera at night time and caught the abductions happening, where she just dissolving into the bed and then reappearing again. And he was even tying himself to her so she wouldn't get taken without him knowing, and they were still taking her, and he didn't know, he wasn't waking up. But because they're part of the Asian community, they weren't allowed to talk about it, and they were terrified, and they couldn't say anything because then they'd be accused of having jinn like haunting the house, because like say Muslim culture, then an alien becomes jinn, and you know what I mean. You got different kind of ridicule and outcasting. So I don't know. Like I say, you got to be careful with this stuff. But anyway, I think I should probably wrap the show up now, because we're going to have done at least an hour now, I reckon. So we'll see how it goes. I don't want to give myself too much of an editing nightmare. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks very much to James Salcedo Paranormal for joining us in the chat. Thanks very much to Enrico. Thanks very much to Ben, and I think Daryl's there as well. So yeah, I appreciate the support, guys. Yeah, check out the work of Marko Rodin. You really do have to sit and think about it, but just play it in the background, play it a few times like an audiobook. And I think it's worth looking into. And if it's get kicked into the naughty corner with Rupert Sheldrake and Graham Hancock, then it's probably that's probably a thumbs up, isn't it, to go and look at it. But anyway, that's enough. That's enough from the Exiled Minds podcast. That's enough from me, Liam Martin. This is the end of the show. You take care of yourself, and I will catch you very soon. And here's James to take us out. Exiled Minds podcast.
Broadcasting, where we delve into
see you soon.
Mystical,
take it easy.
Philosophical, and the cosmic in our quest to uncover the unknown.
I think I got a weird connection.
You're saying that this is one single cell?
It's not unprecedented. The ostrich egg is a single cell in a conglomerate of 5 pounds.
This is a coil. See how it's a lazy 8, infinity, never ends? This also is a coil, but you don't see it yet. This is 50% of the numbers, that's 50% of the numbers. We come to put them together. Our body's called this mortal coil. Everything that exists on the third dimension is a coil. And coils always come in pairs, and they always counter spiral, and they always work together. But that's another story later on. As far as what you're asking, though, the technology that will save mankind and save our planet, that will get rid of the combustion engine, that will get rid of nuclear power, believe me, I would get rid of nuclear power yesterday. I'm so much against it for different reasons. Because plutonium is the most dangerous thing ever discovered by man. In the entire universe, there's nothing more deadly than plutonium. And I'm not worried about plutonium. I don't even think man can maintain a tea kettle, let alone a nuclear reactor. We're so incompetent.
You're right.
So the thing that'll save mankind is called mirror symmetry coils. The best example of a mirror symmetry coil is the baseball. Did you know they can't have a baseball game if you were to make, say, for instance, instead of that S curve on the baseball, if you were to make it like quilt work or patchwork or something, that pitcher couldn't throw that ball. He couldn't throw a curveball. Did you know that how that S curve reacts with the air around it as it moves through air? It causes it to either go straight or spin, depending on how he grips that S curve. It's a very, very, It is a spiral, precise spiral. And there's even more I could say, but I don't want to go there right now. So I mentioned something here. The first I mentioned was equilibrium. To get the whole back into the center, everything has to move. So thus, equilibrium is different than balance. This symbol is in balance, but it is not in equilibrium. Our world is equilibrium because everything's moving around the axis. Nothing goes through the hole. Everything, when water goes down the drain, you see it makes a hole because you have to equalize the pressure on both sides. The hole has many functions and purposes. And everything defines the hole by going around the lip of the hole. Still with me? This line overlapping is not touching right here. There is a hole there. And this diamond in our culture and every culture represents perfection. That's why you give your honey a diamond ring. It represents perfection. We will continue. No, I'm not ahead of myself. Okay, next, stay. Positive emanation creates negative draft counter space. For every action, there are two half opposite equal reactions. Oh, two half opposite. Word equal should have been there. I forgot it. Okay, and we were going to show the negative for positive emanation creates negative draft counter space, but we didn't have that slide. This is only showing 50% of it. It looks like a spiral. It is not, because this is spirit emanating. It is a straight line. Only spirit can travel in a straight line. That's why Einstein's E equals mc squared is called the theory of relativity, the curvature of space-time reality. Its fundamental attribute is curvature. What's causing it to curve? You don't have curvature unless something's causing it to precess and warp. Spirit warps everything. It penetrates, reticulates, and warps everything. Okay, next slide, but I'm not going to start talking about it. We're just going to rest on it for 1 second. Kinetic waves of 9. I'm being rough on you guys. This is not an easy talk. Is this an easy talk? Not really, huh? Are you guys okay?
Yeah. Bring it.
Okay.
Bring it.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go do waves of 9. What's a wave of 9? Oops. No. Oh, we're going to go back. Oops. Oh, well. Oh, there we go. So that's 9. So a wave would be, if you try, the most common, I believe, the most famous, most number of times covers for physics books that exist, the greatest number of times, is the little drop of water, a pebble, going into the pond and it making concentric circle waves, right? We've all seen it. So 9's where the pebble's hitting, and the waves are the numbers around it going out in concentric circles. It could have been any number. It could have been 7, 2, 5, 1, whatever. So if I add up all those numbers, they will equal 9. So if I begin at the 2 and go around and end on the 1 and then add it with that number in that center, if there's really, so this is a z-axis. A z-axis is perpendicular. It's tangential. In other words, if I shoot a bullet through that wall is the surface. This is the surface, and the bullet's puncturing it. That 9 is puncturing it, and it's making ripples, a waveform. So 2 plus 4 equals 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. 9 plus 8.
We have an animation for that if you want to stand.
But I will do that. No, I know we do.
Okay.
I'm deliberately coddling them right now. 2 and 4 equals 6. 6 and 3, and actually I'm making them exert themselves, because then when they see it, it'll kind of be like easy. So 2 plus 4 is 6, 6 and 3 is 9, 9 plus 8 equals 8, because 9 plus 8 equals 17, 1 plus 7 equals 8. Now that, some people can't even handle that. That's called in computers, that's actually acceptable in computer science because they know that in computer science, any huge number has a single discrete number, single digit corollary, comparable. So sure enough, that's because any number can be reduced to a discrete number by constantly removing the modulus, which is 9. So if I had right here, what was that? 2 and 4, 6, 3 is 9, 9, 8 is 17. So if I did 17 minus 9, that would have equaled 8. Do you follow that? That's called casting out nines. That's called cross addition. I could have just written 17. I could have gone 1 plus 7 equals 8. Now, it looks superstitious, doesn't it? It looks like child's play, doesn't it? It looks like it's doomed to failure. But I'm not interested in whether it's a little number or a big number even. I'm going to take the strongest stance I can. I don't care. I'm interested in the pattern it makes. What numbers are making a pattern? And this pattern I haven't explained to you. Every single employee at Microsoft, every single employee at Apple should have known this pattern, and they don't. They've never even seen it before. Because everything they do all day is based on that pattern. Okay? Because 1 doubles to 2, 2 doubles to 4, 4 doubles to 8, 8 doubles to 16, but that's not 16 because I only use single-digit numbers because I'm looking for the pattern. I want to know what tile connects to the next tile, connects to the next tile, because I'm looking for a map, a street map, a guide, a rat maze. Okay? And so what is 7 doing after 8? It always comes after 8 when you go sideways or diagonal. And 5 is always after 8 by 2 steps when you go sideways or diagonal. It's because 16 doubled is 32, 3 plus 2 equals 5. I could have said 7 doubled is 14. It doesn't matter whether it's a 14 or 32. It still must equal 5. So then I'm back to where I began. 64 is 10 is 1. And not only is there one of these pathways going this way, but there's another one going in the reverse direction. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, which equals 11 is 2. That's called doubling. It's called bifurcation. It's called a geometric progression. It is an exponent. But it does not come from any of those mathematical functions. It comes from clefting, being split in half, from spirit. Because you have 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells. There isn't anything in this our universe that doesn't use this principle. So everything I'm talking about, I'm saying I'm using the most fundamental principle. It's called the gut principle. Or the acronym for it is called the Grand Unified Field Theory, or gut equation. Okay, next please. So that was a quick prelude. Scripture again. I con thee, O manifest yet hidden, O unseen yet renowned, because the whole thing about this is for you to learn how to see the hidden and the unseen. O onlooker sought by all. And whatever I'm showing you, all those numbers, everything sees us at all times. I have found the all-seeing eye of God, and it's everywhere in our world. Next, please. Baha'u'llah. So, it's showing it. So there's a 9. Is something going to happen? Go ahead, let her rip. 1, 2, 4. This is called an underpinning nested vortices. It's not going to that 8 there. It's going to this 8 here when you're dealing with underpinning nested vortices. Okay, so now we took the 9 again. This is base 10 up to, and now I'm showing polarity of the numbers. What numbers have polarity? Okay, now we're seeing the waves of 9. So there's 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1.